Hello, welcome to this new BMC Helix Remedy Force webinar. My name is Jair Ramos, and today I'm going to show you how to migrate configuration data from another organization. Remember that if you have any questions, please put those in the chat. We will answer those there. Let's review the agenda for today. I'm going to give you a quick overview about the Configuration Migration Pentaho package. Then I'm going to show you how you can install the latest version of Java. Then we are going to download the Pentaho integration tool, and I'm going to show you how to import basic configuration and then how to import a request definition. Let me provide you a quick overview about the Configuration Migration Pentaho package. It is provided by BMC and it enables you to import the following data: basic configurations such as status, impact, urgency and priority, categories, templates, business services and service offering, request definition, SLAs, and QuickViews. So the first step we need to do is to download and install the latest version of Java. So let's go to the website and download the software. So now that we have on the Java website, here this is the latest version available right now. So let's click on agree and start free download. Click on save file. And as you can see, it is starting. So we need to wait for it to finish. Let's click on install. And here, as you can see, you have the option to uninstall the previous version of Java. Let's do that. Let's click on uninstall. And as you can see, it has been successfully uninstalled. Let's do next. Next. And we successfully installed the latest version of Java. Let's click. Okay, now that we installed the latest version of Java, we can download the Pentaho data integration tool. Here are the steps. So let's go to the website and I'll show you the steps. Okay, now that we're on the website, the version that we need to download is 7.1. So let's click on the folder. And in this case, I'm going to download the zip file. Okay, we need to wait a couple of seconds to download the software. Okay, in this case, I'm gonna save the file in my desktop. Click OK. And now, as you can see here, I have the zip file. So let's do an extract all. I'm gonna put the file in my desktop as well. So let's click on extract. Okay, once the extract is completed, it's going to automatically open the folder. So here on the folder, let's click on data integration, and here we need to find the Spoon Windows batch file. That's the one that we need to open. And this is the file that we need to open. Let's do double click. And as you can see, I'm getting an error message. We have a couple of videos on our YouTube channel that will help you troubleshoot in case something fails once you try to open the file. In this case, based on the error, it looks like the environment variable that I have on my computer is pointing to the previous version of Java. So let's go and change that pretty quick. Okay, let's go to advanced system settings. And as I mentioned, I'm doing this pretty quick. We have a couple of videos that will show you how to do this. On environment variables, here is the variable that I have that is pointing to the previous version of Java that I had, which is the one that we uninstalled. So let me just take the correct path for the newest version. It should be on program files in my case. Let me open the Java folder. And let me select the Java folder, and this is the path that I need to change. So let me go back to the environment variables, and here I need to replace with the new value. Okay, let me click OK. Okay, now that we did the change, let me try to open the Spoon Windows batch file again. Let's do double click, and as you can see, I'm able to open the file. Normally the first time you open it, it takes a couple of minutes. Okay, and we successfully opened the Spoon Windows Batch file, which is the Pentaho data integration tool that we are going to use. So now we can go and download the Pentaho data integration package from the community's website. So let's go to the link and I'm going to show you how you can download it. So on the community's web page, here you will find the Pentaho job. Let's click on that. And in this case, I'm going to save the file on my desktop. So here we need to also extract the information that is on this folder, and I'm gonna put it on my desktop as well. So let's go and click extract, and we need to wait a couple of minutes. And now, as you can see here, this is the content of the folder. You can see different folders such as basic configuration, category, QuickViews, service request definitions, SLAs, templates, and a combined job, which means all the jobs mixed together. Okay, let's review a business case scenario. The Director of Human Resources Department for Acme Corporation asks you to create a new request definition for new hires. As a good practice, you create the request definition in a sandbox. Then you get the approval from the director to do the same implementation on production. You already spent a lot of hours creating the process, but you don't need to spend the same amount of time doing it again on production. You can use the Configuration Migration Pentaho package to move it from sandbox to production. So the cool thing about this Pentaho package is that you can migrate information from production to production, from sandbox to sandbox, production to sandbox, or sandbox to production. So you can migrate information between different environments, which is great. So now let's go to the Spoon Windows Batch file, and let's open the job that we just downloaded from communities. So let's click on edit and then open. So let's select the file location. In this case, let's start with something easy. Let's open the basic configuration and the KGB job for this. Okay, now that it is opened, you can see that with this piece of job you can migrate impact, urgency, priority, and status. Okay, let's start with something easy. Let's migrate an impact. Let's open this piece of job. As you can see here, you can find the source org and then the destination org. As you can see, here is another box for the destination org. Here you can also find if the impact already exists. We also have some logs that you can check if there is any error message or if it was success. Okay, let me explain you something very quick. Here, if we open the source org, here we need to put all the details for the org we will take as source. In this case, just for testing purposes, let's take production, and we are going to migrate an impact that we will create in production to our sandbox. So here we can type the information that we need, the Salesforce URL or the username, or we can use the global variables. I'm going to show you that later. In this case, let's go to the BMC documentation for this job, and we need to check which is the URL that we need to use for production org and sandbox orgs. Here, as you can see, this is the URL we need to use for production orgs, and this one is for sandboxes. Okay, here in my notepad, I just put the production URL and my username for my production org, and for sandbox, I have the URL for sandbox and my username for sandbox. So now let's go back to the Pentaho job, and here we are going to replace this data with the one that we need. So in this case, the source org is going to be my production org. So let's go to the notepad and let's put the data that we need. So in this case, let me take the URL for production. Okay, let's copy this and put it here, and we need the username. So let's go to the notepad and let me take my username that I have for my production org, and here I need to type the password. So I need to use my Salesforce password, and I'm gonna need to click test connection just to see if it is successfully connected to my production org. Okay, it was successfully connected to my production. Normally here you will need to add your security token. The reason it is not asking the security token for me is because I set up some login IP addresses for my profile. So let me show you pretty quick how I did that in case you are wondering. So let's go to my profile. In this case, let's go to settings, go to advanced user details, and here I will check which is the profile that I have, which is service desk system administrator. And here you will find login IP addresses. Okay, in this case I have basically everything, but this is just for me and this is something that I wanted to do for testing. So let's click delete and you will see the difference. So now I don't have login IP ranges. So let me click test connection again and it is failing. It means that I need my security token. So if you don't know how to get your security token, you can find some videos that I have on our YouTube channel, so you can see how you can reset your security token. In this case, let me just go back and set up the IP ranges again. Okay, so let's go to the org again, and here login IP ranges, and I'm gonna put the same range. Let's click save, and now let's just test again and see if it works. So test connection, okay, everything is working fine. Let's click OK, and now let's try to save this piece of job. And as you can see, I'm getting an error message. This is pretty common and probably you will get the same error message. So in order to fix that, we need to go to the folder that we unzip. So let's click OK. Let me go to my desktop, and I need to do right click on the folder. Here let's go to properties, and we need to remove the read only and apply for all the files and subfolders. Let's click OK, and now we can go back here and try to save it. So let's go to, okay, let's make sure the information is there. Let's go to edit save, and now as you can see, I'm not getting the error message anymore. Now we need to do the same process we did for the source org, but now the destination org. In this case, it's going to be my sandbox. Let's take the URL for sandbox and put it in here, and let's go and take my username for the sandbox that I have. Okay, let me just copy. As you can see, it contains the sandbox name. In this case, I just name it sandbox, and let's put the password for my sandbox org. Let's click test connection. Okay, I'm successfully connected to my sandbox, and there is another box for destination org. So let's do the same. Let's take the URL for sandbox. Let's put it here. Let's do the same thing for the username. And I always recommend you to, okay, let's put the password, but I also recommend you to test the connection every time, because probably just one single character could affect everything. So let's go and click save. Okay, so now we have set up this piece of job. So now let's do a quick demo of how it works. So let's go to our production org, and here let me go to the Remedy Force Administration tab. So now that we are on the Remedy Force Administration tab, let's go to impacts, click on impact, and let's create a new impact. As you can see, I already have 3, which are high, low, and medium. Let's create a random one. Click new. Let's put any name. In this case, I'm gonna name it test. Click save, and then click OK. So now let's go and log into our sandbox org. So let's go to setup in a different tab, and setup, and the quick find, Let's type sandbox. In this case, I only have one sandbox, so I'm gonna log in using that one, and that's the one that I'm using on the Pentaho package. So let's click on login. So now let's enter the password for the sandbox, and let's click login. And here we have to go to the Remedy Force Administration tab, and just to confirm that we don't have the impact that we have just created on our production org. So let me go to impact, and as you can see here, I have the same three I have in production, like high, low, and medium, but I don't have the test impact that we created. So now there is a flag that we need to turn on. If we go back to the BMC documentation for this job, there is something called tag for export. So basically the record needs to have tag to export in order to be imported from the source org to the destination org. Okay, I'm going to show you how you can tag for export the record. So let's go to the impact standard Salesforce layout. So let's go to impact, and here's something that I like to do is let me change the view to all, and here let me add another column with the value tag to export just to check if that specific value is checked or not. So here let's move tag to export to the visible fields, and let's click save. As you can see here, none of these impacts are checked for tag to export. If we try to click edit, you will see that you won't find the checkbox here, so it means that we need to add it. So let me show you how you can add the tag to export field in order to be edited. So let's go to setup. On the quick find, we need to go to objects. So type objects and select object manager, and here we need to go to the impact object. So let's type impact, select impact, and here we need to go to page layouts. So let's go on the menu and select page layouts, impact layout, and here you will find the field tag to export. Let's try it and put it on the page layout. Click save, and now we can go back to the Salesforce standard page layout, and let's click edit. Okay, we need to refresh the page in order to refresh the changes. Okay, and now let's click edit again. And here you will find that now we have the checkbox tag to export. So let's check the checkbox and click save. Okay, so now let's go to the Pentaho package. So first let's just confirm that the value is not here right now. We are on our sandbox, and let me just refresh. As you can see, the value is not here. So now let's move on to the Pentaho package. Now we have everything to run this piece of job. So let's click on run. Let me change the log level to very detailed. That's something that I like to do. And then let's check the logging tab. And here we will see if we get any error message. In this case, I don't see any error message. It should be in red or something. And as you can see, the job has finished. Okay, so now we are ready to go to our sandbox and click refresh. And as you can see, it imported the impact that we just created on our production org. And there is something else that I would like to show you, just to show you that it is extremely important to have the tag to export checkbox checked. Let me delete the impact that we created on the sandbox, and let me uncheck the checkbox. So let's click edit, uncheck tag to export, click save, and now we can go back to the Pentaho job, click run. It won't give you any error message because there is no error to display. Basically, we didn't tag anything to be exported, and that's not an error. So as you can see, I'm refreshing the page on the sandbox and it is not working. I mean, it is working, but as it doesn't have the tag to export, it is not being imported to the destination org. Okay, I would like to show you something else. So here, as I already mentioned, for the source and the destination org, we manually put those values, I mean the Salesforce URL and the username, but there is something that is going to make your life so much easier. So let's do this with the urgency job. So let's open the transformation job. And here we are gonna set up the global variables, so you don't need to worry and change each box. So I'm gonna show you how you can use them, and it will automatically update it in all the boxes with all this data. So let me just take the names of the variables. In this case, these ones are for the source org, and I need to do the same for the destination variables. So let's take the Salesforce URL for the destination org, and the same thing for the username. Okay, now that we have the variables, we need to go to edit, and here we need to click on set up environment variables. Here I'm gonna put the values. Okay, name, this is for the source org URL, and this one is for the source org username. I need to do the same for the production variables, and let me take this one. And now we need to put the values. So in this case, we need to put for source the URL for our production org. In this case, I mean, we haven't gone through the business case scenario. This is just to show you how it works, so you can have a better idea of how this job works. So let's take the URL, let's just put it on the value. We need to do the same for the username for the source org. In this case is the username for production. The same thing that we did for the impact job. So let's do the same for the destination org, which is sandbox, and the username for our sandbox. Let's put it here. And one thing that we need to do, I mean in this case, because I don't want to put the password as a global variable, because otherwise you will see my password, and that's not the case. And here I need to type the password for each box. I'll show you later how you can set up a global variable for the password. Okay, we just test the connection. As you can see, we successfully connected. We didn't need to put the entire URL. With the global variables are enough, but I need to update the password. I'll show you how you can make it that global, but it will be in a couple of minutes. And let me just make sure I have the password for all the boxes that I have for this job. And also remember to test the connection. Okay, this is very important just to avoid any kind of errors. Let me click save. So now let's go to our production org, and let's go to the remedy force administration, and we're going to create an urgency. So here let's type urgency, and let's create a random urgency. As you can see, I already have 3. Let's click new, and let's put any name. In this case, I'm going to put something like urgency test. Click save, click OK. As you can see, we created this urgency. So now let's go to the urgency tab in Salesforce, and we have to do the same process. I mean, let's add the tag to export to the page layout. So on objects, let's go and access to the urgency object, page layout, urgency layout. And here let's drag the tag to export checkbox. Let's click save. And now here on the Salesforce tab, let's change the view to all. And as I mentioned, this is something that I like to do. Let's put the tag to export on the visible field list. Okay, let's click save. And as you can see, none of the urgencies are tagged to export. So let's click edit, check the checkbox, click save. Basically are the same steps that we followed a couple of minutes ago. And let's confirm that on our sandbox the urgency does not exist. And as you can see here, I don't have the same urgency I created on production. Let's run the job. Let's go to login tab just to see if I get any error message. Okay, the job has finished. Let's refresh, and here I have the urgency. So as you can see, this is another way where you can use the job with the environment variables, the global variables. It is pretty easy and it will save you a lot of time. And here are the other things that you can import, like priority and status. But now, based on the business case scenario, we need to migrate a request definition from our sandbox to production. So in this case, I have created this request definition new hire in my sandbox. And as you can see in my production org on request definition, I don't have that request definition, new hire. So we need to move that one from sandbox to production. So in this case, the source is going to be sandbox and the destination production. Okay, for this case, as you can see, I have this category, the service offering. I also have this service request template and the incident template. So this information does not exist on production. So let's go and open the combined job. So let's go to the job folder, and in this case I'm gonna take the combined job. Basically it contains all the jobs for basic configuration migration, category migration, template migration, and the other objects as well. So basically it has an order. In order to migrate the request definition, we need to migrate first the basic configuration, then categories, then templates, then the business service, and then we'll migrate our request definition. So we need to follow that order, otherwise it won't work. So let's right click on the white space and let's go to parameters, and here we need to set up the variables, I mean the destination org and the source org. As you can see, I have this one for password, but if I type my password here, you will be able to see it. So we don't want that, so I will have, as you can see here, if I type my password, you will be able to see it. But I will set up the password in all the boxes. But you can use this just to save a lot of time, and it will help you if you want to migrate information later from production to sandbox, sandbox to sandbox, and I already explained that. So let's open the category combined job, and let's go to properties again for this particular job. Let's make sure we have the correct values here. As you can see, for this specific job, I need to set up the global variables. Let's open the transformation job just to show you what it contains. In this case, I'm just gonna put my password here on all the boxes. I need to do the same process with all the pieces of job that I have. This is something that I will do on my end, but you can use the global variables. As you can see, I'm getting this error message because I didn't set up the global variables yet. So let's right click. Okay, look, and as you can see here, I'm missing this information. So let's click cancel. Let's right click on the white space, properties, then let's go to parameters, and here we need to change all the links and the username as we need. In this case, the source org is going to be sandbox. So let's take the URL for sandbox, which is our source org. Okay, perfect. So now let's go and take the username for sandbox. Let's put it here. And as I mentioned, you can put the password, that's optional, or you can set the password on each box for the job. So let's put the information for the destination org, which is production. Let's click save, and now let's click run. Okay, as you can see, the information has been updated and everything is working as expected. I already put my password on all the boxes, just to let you know that. Okay, and now we need to check the same process for each piece of job. The same thing for template migration, the same thing for business service migration, request migration, and you need to check that everything is working as it is. So here I uncheck this connection because I won't migrate QuickViews yet. Probably I can give you another webinar of how you can migrate QuickViews, but in this case I don't want you to do that yet, so let me check that connection. So going back to the sandbox org, okay, here as you can see I have a category that I created for this specific service request, a service offering, a service request template, and incident template. So those records needs to be tagged to export. So we need to follow the same thing we did before for the impact and urgency. In this case, let's go to the categories, Salesforce standard page layout. And here is the category list. Let me just add the tag to export to the visible fields. Okay, so as you can see, the category that we created for new hire is unchecked for tag to export. But let's open the other objects, such as the base element, where we can find the business services that we created for new hire. We have to also open the one for templates, but as you can see, I don't have that enabled yet. So we need to create a tab for it. So on the setup menu, let's go and type tab. And here we need to click new and create the tab for templates. So on the object, here we will find the ones that does not have a tab yet. So let's try to find template. Let's choose on style, it is up to you. It doesn't matter which one you select. Click next. In this case, I just want to make it default off for everyone. I just want to make this on only for my profile. Okay, I'm gonna make this default on for my profile. Let's click next. And I don't want to include this object on one of my tabs. And let's try to search for request definition tab, and I think it's not here. Yes, it is not here, so we need to create a tab. Let's click new and let's search for that object. It should be here if the tab is not created yet. So here's request definition, and let's choose a tab style. Okay, and let's click next. And I'm gonna do the same process, default off for everyone, and I'm gonna make it default on for my profile. Let's click next. I don't want to include the object on any of my tabs. Okay, and now let's go and open each object tab in Salesforce. So let's go to templates. Now I can see templates. Okay, let's view all, and as you can see, here are the two templates I created for the new hire service request. Let's add the tag to export again for this object. Let's click save. Okay, let's go to setup. And here let's go to request definition, a standard Salesforce page layout. Okay, let's change the view to all. And here is the new hire request definition. So let's do the same thing. So let's add the tag to export on the visible fields. Okay, so now we need to tag for export all the records that are involved on the request definition that we created. Okay, as you can see here, I have everything checked. I mean, all the records that needs to be imported from this sandbox to production, the business services, the templates, the category, and the request definition. Okay, so now if we go to the request definition that I created for this sandbox, we will notice that I have two different inputs that I created. On fulfillments, a template that I also added and created, and I have some display options and entitlement for this request definition. Okay, I would like to go pretty quick to production, and I would like to search for categories. So let's go and select categories. And here I just want to verify the new hire does not exist in production. Anyway, if it exists, it won't be migrated. It will just be assigned to the request definition. Okay, so okay, there is no category for new hire. And let's run the main job. And let's see if it gives us an error. So let's click yes. Let's check the login tab. And also, as you can see here, it is executing job by job. So first it is executing the configuration migration, then the category migration, then it will go for template migration, then the business service migration, and the service request migration, and then the SLA. But also we are not migrating SLAs today, so probably it could be a different webinar. In this case, I just want to show you how you can migrate request definitions. Okay, so everything seems to be fine. So if we see any error message, we should be able to see something in red, or maybe it could be a password issue or any other reason, but it will show up on the logs based on the level of logs that you put when you run the job. So it almost finished. It is checking for business services. As if you will remember, we created two different business services for this request definition. Okay, and so once it finished, it will migrate the request definition with all the inputs, fulfillment, entitlement that we have for that particular request definition that we are going to migrate. Okay, now as you can see, the job has finished. So now let's go to our production org and make sure that the request definition was successfully imported. So let's go to request definition and click refresh. And as you can see, I have the new hire request definition. So on this view, you can see that everything was migrated, such as the category, the service, service offering, service request template, incident templates. And if we go to inputs, there are the two inputs that I have on Sandbox. For fulfillment, if you will remember, I had a template for task. But if you also checked, I didn't tag to export this particular template. So let me show you pretty quick on Sandbox. The template create user account is not checked for tag to export, so that's the reason it is not on our production org. So you need to be very careful with this, because things like that might happen. So on production, I have the in Sandbox, sorry, I have the template, but in production it wasn't migrated because I didn't check the checkbox tag to export. So here I have the display option, the two checkboxes that I have on Sandbox, the entitlement options. So everything was migrated, as you can see here. As you can see here, this is a powerful tool where you can migrate all the job that you did in your Sandbox org, and how you can move all these kind of things to your production org. You only need to set up this once. I mean, the next time you will migrate on a request definition, it's going to be even easier because you don't need to do all these steps that we did on this webinar. And I'm going to give you some references of all the links that we use for this webinar. Okay, as you can see, it is not that difficult. I mean, we just need to install all the software that we need in order to be able to use the Configuration Migration Pentaho package from BMC. As you can see in this webinar, we import from production to sandbox and then to sandbox to production, but you can do also the same process with 2 different production orgs or 2 different sandboxes. So this is why this tool is extremely cool. And remember that this webinar is going to be on our YouTube channel. You can watch some other videos that we have for you that might interest you. Please, if you have any question, you know that you can open a ticket with technical support. Remember to follow us in all our social media on communities, Facebook or Twitter. Thanks for watching this webinar about how to migrate configuration data from another organization. Stay tuned for the next one.